concept of Angular, just like in Vue, is the component, and the component is that one single item of the front end, the view, uh, that is such that it is a tree of components actually, so that in and as a root, in the root of them is the main component, and each part of the user interface can be divided into several components. So, nga lang yun na siya, every single item in your user interface, because as you know, Angular is also front end, it's still also using components. And well, we'll have in the advanced topics, there are services and others, but basically ato gid na siya mo boil down into the components, and the services are just there to support data, to support the components in terms of providing data from whatever sources. So components good. And it can be as simple as a single button, or can be a little bit more compound, as in a card. You can have a component that represents or that is going to render a card, or a component that's going to render your nav bar or your login form, and so on. So it's up to you how you are going to divide your application into these components. And these components can also interact with other components by way of transferring data from one component to another. And they also interact with one another such that a component is inside of another component. Like I said, the components is in a tree format. So na ay parent component, na po child or children components. So I hopefully you have watched the video lecture by Mosh. Mayo kay si Mosh mo kung ano mo explain kay pragmatic ba makasabot ta, or at least ako nakasabot ko niya sa makasabot ko niya. Unsa man sa inyong experience, nakasabot mo sa the way Mosh explains things? Katong og mag-manual ka o create og component o niya imuha pang i-import niya, imuha pa yung i-register dito sa module. More problema nimo. And although you don't really have to face that problem too much, because with the use of the uh, Angular CLI, the process of creating the component and registering it into the module is also done automatically. Gipakita lang mo primero. Ha? Oo. Kaya to lang primero nga part nga gi-demonstrate ni Mosh was unsa gibuhat sa Angular CLI, kung gipakita lang niya mag-create ka og component ja, kanang na ay imo siyang i-register and then i-add dito sa module. Later on, kung dako na gyud ang imong application nga buhaton, you'll create your own module. You'll have a module for user management, you'll have a module for palitan kung blog siya, you'll have a module for article management, and then each module will have a set of components inside. So nga na, basically na ay module, inside sa module na ay mga components. Okay? And the component is, ang mga components is arranged in a component tree. So na ay root component inside. The root component will have some components, and those some components will have inside some components as well. So tree siya. And mo na siya ay structure, overall structure so sa Angular application. For your perusal here in our course, we won't reach to the point nga mag-create ta og atong kaugalingong module. We'll only be at least in this course, we'll only be using that main or app module nga ma-generate sa pag-create og usa ka bag-ong Angular application. What we will do is we'll be creating our own components, and for the rest of the course we'll be having a lot of components interacting with one another, and have components that is going to consume data from backend API. So, but for now, let's stick with the simple creation of components. So I have here kindly pin my window to increase the size, to maximize the size. I have here a blank, a new Angular application. So kay bawa naman mo unsa ang pag-create og new Angular application, just say ng new and then the name of the application, and then press enter, and then you'll be asked to ito unang pangutana niya. Do you want to use route? And it's just a matter of yes or no. So in this example, wala akong magamit og routing kay single page raman atong gamiton, dili man ta mo go to another page. And another question niya is kung unsa nga CSS ang gamiton. Are you going to use SAS or SCSS, no? Or plain CSS ra ba? So in this particular example, I use just plain CSS. And then mag-create na siya sa kanang na ay application. Sa inyong case, I don't know, nag-try mo o create o Angular app? Kasi may nag-try na. Post sa chat box o ako sir, nag-try na ko. Sige. Wala nag-try. Mga very good dyan mo eh. Nga lami kay mo pang kanang dokdokon. You should have tried by now. Pila ra may pag-type og ng new and then the name of the application. So here, this is, yan, butan na dyan si Alvin eh. Ang bait mo talaga, Alvin, sana kunin ka na ni Lord. Alright, so this is a basic Angular setup. So by simply executing the command ng new midweek 2, this was generated, and looking at inside, this is just the boilerplate, no? And inside the SRC, we have the app, the TS, and this on the right side here, this is the output of this particular boilerplate code. So we have the main app, the main module, the main component, which consists of the TypeScript. The spec is for testing. Kini siya aron di mo maglibog, dilitan na dayon, di pa nato gamiton for now. And then the HTML and the CSS. So while I sulod si CSS, I will go to the HTML and I will delete everything kay samo ka na siya, and I'll just replace this with hello, I am an Angular app, and save automatically. See, the output is shown there. If you want to make use of Bootstrap, you can use Bootstrap, the CSS of Bootstrap, but not the JS of Bootstrap. It's a little bit of complication if you are going to implement the behavioral JavaScript of Bootstrap into Angular. So you can do absolutely use Bootstrap, but the CSS lang. So if I go to get bootstrap.com and kuha lang niyo ang CDN. So let me get the CDN on my other monitor here. Kuha lang ang CDN nga namang gihapon ang JS, but well, I don't know, no, dugay na baya kung wala nag-Angular, but before sa Angular 2 pa to sa una, nagka-problema ko bahin sa JS JS part sa Bootstrap, di siya mogana, but I don't know, so ayan lang nato ron, so I'll just copy this. And what you'll do is you can go to the index HTML, this one, and just paste it there. It's like that. So as you can see, I included the script. So kini siyang duha ka linya mo man ang sa CDN sa Bootstrap. You can use Bootstrap. Save this, and as you can see, the output immediately, the font style has changed. Yan na lang. And now we can use Bootstrap. Say for example, if we put this inside of a container, put it right there, and maybe put an alert here. Let's do an alert. Info. This is developer. Then, so when you save that, see we have the output as expected. Kanang naay butangan na to ni og margins babaw MT5. There you go. Now, going back to the TS file of this app component, this is the one. Component.ts. We have here a field title. I will change that to developer. And simply ako may bagong niabot. Sa mani, Kyle, karon pa si Kyle. So, and I want the developer field to be dynamically injected into the HTML. So instead of statically typing there benzelinteria, I will just use the term na the double curly braces, kalimot mo ko sa term na kasi nakinunod sa term na niya, interpolation. Interpolation ng term na. So I'll be calling the interpolation, and here I'll be interpolating the developer field, and well, parihar gyud sa nanay nadugang nga B. But you know that this Benji B linteria here is dynamically injected through the interpolation, and that data is taken from the field developer from your TypeScript file, from your app component. Okay, now this time we're going to create a new component. So going down to the types at to the terminal. By the way, okay ra ba ang gidakon sa font, guys? Kabasa ra ba mo?
Oh, sir. Basa ra, sir.
Okay. Lami magtingog si Lara. Mura mag-sexy kayo. Okay, so let's create a new component. ng G for generate. Pwede pod mo tawag mo generate. C for component. Pwede po typeon og tibuok component. And then the name of the component, I will just call this toggle. So it will, of course, create 4 files. The inside a folder, toggle, the CSS, the HTML, the specification, which I'm going to delete para di mo maglibog, and the TypeScript file. And also the boilerplate TypeScript file contains some additional parts for the initialization, which wala ra man po ibuhaton. So I'll just remove them for now. We'll be using them later. I'll just remove them for now para lang ma-simple tanawon. Now, this is a toggle, and I will be using this. I will be having a button. So also the selector, look, it's app-toggle. I don't want that. Ganahan ko nga toggle ra jud. Okay. Pag careful lang mo paggamit og selector, guys, kay na basin og Mogamit mo selector nga kanang na existing elements sa HTML. So what happens is every time you use that element in your application, it will be converted into that particular component. So make sure nga inyong gigamit nga selector wala sa um, HTML element unless mo imong tuyo. Okay, di ba? Pwede magkani mo kagamit sa selector o class. In that case, you'll just put a dot or ID. In that case, you'll just put a hashtag. Or kung walay dot or hashtag, it is an actual element. So kung gusto nimo nga tanang H1 ingani nga dagway, then you're going to design a component for that, and so ang imong selector H1. Nga na lang na siya. That's how you can augment an existing HTML kanang na element by tagging it or by attaching it into a component like this. So but here we're talking about a toggle, which is an custom element, but na siya bali. And we'll just have a variable, or not, but a field called label. And give this a label of active. Okay. And going to the HTML, maghimo ko ani og button. So again, in the toggle folder, we'll have the HTML here and toggle works. So by the way, imo na nang i-add dito sa imuhang main HTML or sa app component HTML, arito diri mo man app component mo man ni gawas diri, no? Pwede na ta magdugang diha og element nga toggle. Ito na wala mabasa ang dili siya. Okay? And if we save that, goes itong toggle works. This is the output of that toggle toggle component. So if we open up again toggle component HTML, mo na siya see toggle works. Well, we'll change this into a button. Okay? Button. Yeah, kay gamit naman ta og kanang na ay sana bootstrap, pwede ta mo butang og mga bootstrap classes. btn dash success, btn dash lg, and inside we are simply going to interpolate again the label. Okay, so when we save that, this becomes a button now and says active. That's because in our toggle component, our label has a value of active. Now, to give this a little bit of kanang na ay action, gusto na kong ini-click, ma-inactive siya. Ini-click og balik, ma-active na pod. So, what we have to do is go to in our TypeScript for the toggle component, we'll just add a method that is going to change the label field into either inactive siya kung active or active siya kung inactive. And that can be done. Let's just call this method change. Type oy. And so change is going to say change that label into something else based on the content of the label. So if the label is equal to active, we'll replace it with inactive. Di mao. Question. Otherwise, active ang sulod. So, kung true ni, kani. Otherwise, kani. Diba? I hope mahilig mo magamit og ternary operation. So now, we can apply that. We can call this change method when we click. So we have to bind it to an event in the button. Here's the button, and to bind an event, the event should be inside of a parenthesis, and the name of the event is click. And then what should it do? It's going to call change, just like that. All right. So now we click here, inactive, active, inactive, active. Diba? Nice. Uh, so, what else? Let's add another. By the way, kung magbutang nakagdugang ron sa imuhang app component HTML, nagbutang magag usa ka toggle diha no. If we are going to add another HR here, butangan, and we'll have another toggle here. And save. Now we have two toggles. Nag-inactive sa usa, independent siya sa usa. Okay, so muna siya behavior sa component inigbutang nimo sa usa ka component. Remember, this is a component that is placed inside of this file, and this file HTML is also the HTML of a component. And if you see in the index.html, it's this component here, app-root, because the app component.ts uses the selector app-root. Okay. So duhaon to nimo tong app-root sa imuhang index.html. So may natabo. Usar lay gyapon. What? Og limaon. Sa may natabo ani. More lagi gyapon. But because you can only have one root component. Pero kung katong sa imong daghanon, ito, asa naman to? This one. Wala si Kate karon pa niabot. Take that. So you have another. And again, independent ni siya because they have their own. Si kani nga component na ay iyang kagulingong label, kanipod na iyang kagulingong label, kanipod na iyang kagulingong label. Later on, we will have some examples wherein ang usa component will share the same data from another component. Kung ang kining label nga component nga field diri wala pa ni sa toggle nga component ug tuwa pa ni siya sa app component nga mo'y parent niya nga gipasa ra nato, nag-change na to sa usa, mo change pud ang uban kay pareha ra man sila og data nga gi-referan. But we'll have that later on. So nga na lang. This is how components. This is how you create a new component and put it into your application. Let's well, just for the sake of being crazy, we'll create a new component. Let's create a new component, huh? NGGC, and I'll just R&D number. R&D num. So what happens? Again, it's going to create another folder under app R&D num, and it also contains 4 files. Again, I'm going to remove the spec for now. And this time, this is going to be, we'll have a data nga, a field, sabi nga na to sa field, R&D number, which will have start with 0. And what method are we going to do? We're going to randomize. Randomize, then we'll have a method here, we can randomize. So what we can do here is you'll do this that R&D number is equal to a number which is taken from math.random multiplied by 100, karon kutob sa 100, and then we'll convert that into a whole number ngayon walay decimal to, let's say, to fixed 0. Ano mo siya? Uy, mas string na dahil siya. Sige na lang. So, string na lang na to ni. Ano lang. Okay, so you have that random number. And dito sa tong HTML niya, mag-display ta og kana. I-display na to si random number. Let's have here interpolation, R&D number. And we'll have a button. Mga muoy mo, kung ano sa, again, btn dash primary. Just put here randomize. Okay? And, syempre, sa button niya, ini-click, tawag mo na to ang method nga randomize. So we'll add this component now inside of our app component. So going back to the app HTML here, we can add, so put a horizontal rule, and then we'll call in random R&D num. Okay, and now, failed to compile, error. May error ano eh. Is an Angular component, then verify that it is part of this module. Lah, wala mo siya ma-add sa module? Okay. Tanaw sa nato kung say ang kuha na to dahil ang iyahang selector ato na to ma-change. In the TS file, ang selector kay app dash rnd. Maglagot sa ng app. Kalimot ko kung ano yan niya. There you go. Why sod? Kaya siyempre, blanco mo na. So, click on randomize. We have 16, 5, 37, 74. Atong padakaan na ba? R&D ng component HTML here, and that it's inside of a P. Ang kining P ato nang butang ato na himuong kuan alert class alert dash info, and we'll give it a style, or aron maanad ta ato ta mag style sa siyempre sa atong R&D ng component CSS, no? Sa pa si HTML ato ni tagaan og ID nga R&D num. Kaya mo na ito ang stylan. There is ato ang component CSS, magkuhan to hashtag R&D num. And we give it a font size of 2 ems. Okay, randomize. And then, lumera si 2M. Tapos yung padakan og 4M. Yeah, font weight pod og bold. Randomize. Dawa lagi mo effect. R&D num. Ay, dako mo dang N. Gamyan. There you go. Okay. Question, guys? Question. Tadadam. Wala yung question? Pagka-timid ba yan nila? Okay, kung wala mo yung question, type mo no question on the chat box.
Yeah, more, sir.
Type mo no question o mo yung pangutana.
No question.
Type. Palahubog na si Alvin. Okay, so no question. I'd like to now describe to you your project. Yeah, well, ako man na isuwat pero mas maayo nang i-describe na ko ninyo ang project orally. So your project would be something like this. Pero it's you'll have two buttons, increment and decrement. Okay, increment of course mo pa dako sa number, decrement mo pagamay sa number. Pero ang increment o decrement dili tagsa. It's going to be a random number between 1 and 10. So, for example, 8 na siya karon, inig-increment nimo ang iyang ma-generate nga random number is 5, so mahimo na siyang 13. Inig-decrement na po mo, mag-generate gyapon siya og random number between 1 and 10. For example, 2, so ang 13 mahimo ng 11. So muna siya, increment o decrement ang button, pero ang number nga ma-either increment or ma-decrement is a random number between 1 and 10. Claro? Usara na siya ka component. One component will have a text displaying a number, two buttons, increment and decrement, which will change the value of the number up or down, whether kung increment padong saka, decrement padong ubos, but the value that will be either incremented or decremented has to be a random number between 1 and 10. Is that understood, guys? If you have understood the problem of the project, please type yes. Si Sai, naglibog pa si Sai. Sige, para for the sake of Sai, I'll do something like this. And naakay text box or naakadihay sana container nga na ay number. Nga na siya Sai. Then, naabog kay button. Not necessarily nga sundugon yun ninyong dagway ani ha. Nakay button nga naisod nga text nga increment. Og ang usa kay decrement. Okay? Kung mo-click ka sa increment side, ang number mo saka. Kung pila ang isa ka, dili 1, dili 2, dili 3, it's random. No? Una, mag-generate ka og random number from 1 to 10 and that random number imong i-add sa current number kung mo increment. Or imong i-minus sa current number kung mag-decrement. Okay? Kay mura pwede man ni gamiton as game god. Mag-game kita mo. Turn game. So, every time you click on increment, musaka ang number, pero ang sinakahan, dili kanunay. Mag-utro-utro ang gidaghanon sa iyang saka. Karon musaka sa 5, sunod musaka sa 7, sunod musaka sa 3, depende, random. Kung mo decrement, muos-os siya og 5, muos-os sa 8, muos-os sa 9, random gyapon. Depende sa ma-generate nga random number. Okay? Gets na. Pero si Alvin naman dahil ko na bahala ni mo say. Ayaw ito magtuong ni Alvin say. Ay, tabra kagwa mo to Ginoo. Okay, so that's it for the session. Any other question? Okay, no more questions. So that will be it for the session. Thank you so much for attending, and you may now go deadline. Sa taron, Biyernes. Karon good. 'Di ba og mag kuan man ta og mag project ta karon kay within the day naman gyud. So your deadline is until 12 man na unta. Kuan na lang until 1 at until 2. Saan pagpas? Magbutang ko kog Moodle o sa Moodle god. Diya kanang naay mo submit mo og Git kanang repository as usual. Pero pwede ra man siguro og ikuan day. Gamay ra man tingali ni og atong suwayan ha. Let's try. Let me close this and this and go to that little thing called love. Midweek 2. Let's try and compress this into a zip file. Tanaw na to kung sige duck on. Karon og okay lang i-duck on. I-zip na lang no. Nga mo inyong i-submit karon din na ko magsige og kanang na ay so na npm install. Alright, the zip file is 90 fucking 5 MB. Dako kaya na no, ganahan mo magpaabot og upload og 95 MB? Ha? Unsa man ka kusgain yung internet kung mag-upload mo? Kasi karon labas sa mga broadband kay kusog og download inunta lang 5 Mbps or og nag-fiber mo 35 Mbps. Pero ang upload na hinay. No, ng fiber kay symmetric no. Magkamang ang internet ana. Dali ra na sa mga PLDT diha, na diha, diha. Bugiro na yung mga naka-PLDT, nag-fiber ba? Nya nagka-problema ra bang PLDT aring repita sa kuan? Piniagan sa adlaw or naayon naman tingali. Anyway, sila ra may na-affected kay during that time nga nagka-problema ang PLDT dito sa Piniagan dapit dito sa Muawa man gihapon no. Namang gihapon sa 80 Mbps ako Tarong bayan lang silingan. So di murag di magsilbi ang 95 i-upload no. So ang mayong buhaton igit. Kana bitang basa-basa nga igit. GitHub na lang atong gamiton ha. So you push your project to GitHub and submit only the link. Sige, that's all. And you may now go. Please execute leave drill. Bye-bye, everyone.
Unsa gani pa nga natong dictionary bitaw sa kuan sir sa capstone ba kato bitang dili definition of terms katong isa bitaw sa use case diagram.
Data
Di ba
dictionary?
ingon ka magamag data dictionary dito. Sige sir, mara to.
Yeah.
Nye nye nye.